Armando Lannucci's Charm Offensive, presented by Armando Lannucci.
Thank you very much. Welcome to a brand new series of Charm Offensive, the show that's at the bottom of everyone's lips. It's good to be back in a brand new slot and at a time of enormous political upheaval, because this week a surly fat man played croquet while being working class. Yep, croquet, bowls for people who can't bend. I've actually found it quite exasperating putting this show together. First of all, the whole story of Prescott and his country mansion breaking. And first of all, I was confused because I was only half listening to the news, and for a moment I actually thought John Prescott had left the Big Brother house. But then the more I listened, the more I just got annoyed, because the whole world has just gone croquet mad. Every news headline is obsessed with croquet. Here's a headline I heard on Radio 4 yesterday.
Foreign ministers from the 5 permanent members of the United Nations Croquet Council in Germany will meet in Vienna today. The United States has said it's ready for direct talks with the Iranian authorities, as long as they stop croquet enrichment first.
And I have a funny feeling there'll be more croquet-related news throughout the show as it happens. Before then, let's meet this week's Charm Offensive guests. Please welcome Will Smith, Natalie Haynes and Clive Anderson. OK, more on Prescott to come, to quote a Sun headline. Saturday, 12:30.
You noted that fine detail.
Yeah, he runs like clockwork.
Not cuckoo clock, though, no. But first of all...
Yeah, it's eating into people's brains now, isn't it?
Someone with a visual
image of...
I'm thinking of a grandfather clock with those Greek pendulums that swing from side. But that wouldn't be appropriate, apparently.
Oh. Congratulations, I now need a bath. Just from listening to you.
We compared John Prescott's genitals to different types of clock. That's satire.
Shall we just get all the John Prescott innuendos out now? Shall we just call a John Prescott innuendo amnesty? And just get them out? This was scheduled for later on in the show, but... It's been quite absurd, because what happened in Parliament, whenever John Prescott said anything, the Tories would pick up on any sort of slightly double-meaning phrase he used, like, I'm very much hands-on. So,
go, woo.
Hands-on, eh?
You've done it.
Prime Minister's full backing, more like fat bonking. Deputy Prime Minister, more like deep titty pump monster.
Grace and favour residence? Shouldn't that be a residence where a woman called Grace does favours for money? I'm implying he lives in a brothel.
Deputy Leader of the Labour Party? More like Deputy Lira Ovulate Pert, eh?
I'm now going to have that bath in bleach, in case you were wondering.
Thank you.
Okay.
But first of all, national holidays. This week, a poll asked the public to choose a day to celebrate Britishness and explain why. And the winner was the 12th of June, the anniversary of the signing of the Magna Carta. So first, I'd like to ask everyone if they would like to nominate a special day to have as an extra holiday, and why.
National Lampoon Day, where Chevy Chase takes the entire nation on a disastrous holiday.
Would that be the only National Lampoon Day? Or
I think there'll be several.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I don't want any more bank holidays, and I especially don't want June the 12th. There's so many in a row, and they're such vicious, viscous things. I would rather we had a mobile day, like Easter, or like libraries, and then...
What, a bank holiday that comes around to your local area?
Yeah, and then...
And it's quite understocked.
Yeah. And then I wouldn't know it was coming.
Pensioners and children celebrate.
Yeah, that's fine, and then I wouldn't have time to dread it.
But all the ones they've suggested have been, well, let's have Trafalgar Day, that make that holiday, or make it when Napoleon was beaten at Waterloo, which, if it were to be a holiday, it should have been started 200 years ago, when it was fresh in everyone's memory. You can't start going back. It's like handing out knighthoods to everybody who played in the 1966 World Cup on the basis we haven't won anything since then. It should have been done at the time, if at all.
Come on, in the words of Mars Bars, believe.
Yeah.
Come on, Clive, believe.
That was one of the blatant bits of product placement I've ever seen on the BBC.
No. I mean, they've gone down badly in Scotland, I tell you.
Yeah.
I'd like a deep-fried Believe, please.
Yeah.
A side portion of a pickled optimism and a chilli hope. How about a day to celebrate British music called Happy Mondays Tuesday?
Get Carter Day?
Get Carter Day.
Yeah, before we celebrate Michael Caine being nude, holding a shotgun.
A celebration.
That's my Sundays.
A celebration of 60s British films.
Yeah.
All right, because I was going to go with Sunday Bloody Sunday Monday.
So what day have we decided upon then? What's the programme?
Pete Doherty, Come Down Friday. Over now to Charlotte Green with another national croquet update.
Cleveland police declared a major emergency overnight when an explosion at a croquet plant near Middlesbrough started a big fire.
OK, well, as promised, let's now look at John Prescott. Now, after the past few weeks, John Prescott has been having a terrible time, and it's hard not to think of John Reed's famous quote, unfit for purpose. Actually, other quotes from John Reed this week have been, what do you mean you don't know? This is gammon and cheese when I ordered a crayfish wrap. What do you mean you've lost the order? I'm sorry, I've been under a lot of strain. I didn't mean to do that. They're over there in the first aid box. What do you mean you've lost the first aid box? Again, I'm sorry I did that. How many times have I done that this week? What do you mean you don't know?
He is genuinely terrifying, isn't he?
Who, John Reed?
Yeah,
yes.
he always seems to me like the sort of man who has calmly watched people die in car parks. Just no flicker.
To draw that illusion, how many of those people have you seen?
9.
Not in real life, but can't you imagine him just upgrading your beating to a killing because you got blood on his shoes?
We were actually talking about John Prescott until we got sidetracked into John Reed's
Car park killings.
car park terror. Yes, so where now for Prescott and croquet?
He could have been doing a lot worse things in his garden, couldn't he? I mean, he was just playing a game.
Yes.
Croquet. I mean,
yes.
My dad likes to urinate on the tomatoes to fertilise them. I mean, that's fine if you're a mildly eccentric retired music teacher, but not good if you're the Deputy Prime Minister.
Not good if you're going round for some salad later, is it?
No. Not good if the fence is being replaced, as happened the other week. But
probably rotted away.
It's because he really likes hammers. That's the thing. I think when he doesn't play croquet, he has one of those, you know, like they have at a fair to test your strength. He does that. And if they'd had a picture of him doing that, everyone would have gone, oh, what a lovely working class hero.
So
he loves the fair.
So why then is it playing a game of croquet that is the fundamental crime?
It's the strangest thing.
But maybe it's just like he knows he's on his way out, and that once Tony Blair said, I'm standing by him, he's got about a week to go. So it's just like the equivalent of bringing in games at the end of term. It's just like, I'll just hit a few balls around, then play mousetrap for a bit, you know.
He claims that it was actually an away day. They were going as some sort of team-building, brainstorming exercise.
No, I think he was just in the wrong place at the wrong time, because he hasn't got a diary secretary anymore. So he didn't know where he was supposed to be.
Now, speaking of news, before we move on, can I just explain that because we're now in a high-profile slot, we've been given more money, so we can afford for every panellist to have their own rolling news ticker tape, continuously moving from left to right underneath them. Now, this will give listeners at home a constant stream of the latest headlines. So those at home should hear this now. While in the studio, we're going to go on to the next round, which is all about the growing conflict in East Timor, and a part of the show called East Timor Gentlemen, Please. So, Will, where do you stand on the growing crisis in East Timor?
Peru's caretaker president demands new mop. Digital map of universe, wrong way up.
I'm rather troubled by that.
New variant CJD lacks subtlety of original.
Marrow Christ scares Harvest Festival. E. coli has entered the Big Brother house.
Teenager's fetus doesn't understand her.
Speculation on the claim.
3 caravan-sized meteorites heading for Earth really slowly.
Sting admits, I am a bee in name only. I have no honey-making abilities.
Widdicombe burns up on re-entry.
Fatal kidney error ruins steak pie.
Which is why in the end there'll have to be an international conference to sort it out. Oh, God, okay. Well, yeah. I've never thought we'd be able to wring so many laughs out of East Timor. So thanks once again to the panel for one of the funniest moments of my life. Now we move on to a round called If Meat is Murder, Is Quorn Wasting Police Time? This is all about animal testing. Actually, Morrissey issued a warning to vivisectionists. He's spoken out. He said, "How can you bear to listen to the melancholy bleating of a baritone sheep being tortured with a laboratory probe on a grey Sunday afternoon indoors?" He sang. So, what's people's views on animal testing?
So I'm quite hardcore vegetarian. I have been for 18 years. And my philosophy has consistently been that I won't eat anything with a face, although, of course, I will peel it and then wear it.
I'm slightly similar. I don't eat meat and I don't wear leather shoes. However, I do deliberately harm animals. I have slippers that are essentially hollowed-out rabbits.
I think probably the main problem with this is that it was guinea pig farmers, wasn't it, whose granny was disinterred, and nobody really likes guinea pigs because they're so squeaky and annoying.
Yes.
They're like Joe Pasquale, but animals.
But you've really got to love guinea pigs to dig up a corpse. I mean, there must come a point when you're 3 feet down and dawn is approaching where you think, oh, hang on, if they hadn't called themselves guinea pigs in the first place, this wouldn't have happened. They're like the boy who turns up at school and on the first day and says, "Hello, my name's Leslie and I like ballet," and then complains he gets bullied for the rest of his school career.
The worst name is Edible Dormouse. Now, whoever goes around calling themselves that is stupid.
I don't understand why they test cosmetics on animals, because they're not going to look any better because they've got lipstick. So,
I don't know. If you see a sheep... Oh, that's just me. But, I think as long as we do a deal, if we test on animals and then we test animal medicine on us.
Right.
So, I'm having a deworming course at the moment.
We could test on Morrissey, since he is mostly vegetable matter.
Yeah. But it's a weird thing anyway, that the protest, because they've got the protest in Oxford as well, where they're now, they've got to be kind of 100 yards back, and they're only doing it on a Thursday, so they turn up every week with their placards. And I just think the two positions are so diametrically opposed. If you're kind of standing there with a placard against the scientist, it's not that likely that he's going to come to work one day and kind of go, "Oh, sorry, I've never really read that before. I assumed you were advertising a golf sale. But you're right, my life is a murderous lie. Hand me the megaphone."
But on that basis, there's no point protesting about the Iraq War. It would go ahead with nobody being paid attention to. The government
exactly.
Yeah.
Because, we all want to make people do things or not do things we don't agree with. Like I really wish that my flatmate would do his share of washing up. I've never thought of digging up his grandmother to make him do that.
You have thought about it.
Yeah, I'd take a more...
How's that going to help?
Well, no, it's not. That's just going to anger him. He's probably going to do no washing up at all after that. So I take a more circuitous route.
He's got a deliberately dirty plate.
Yeah. What I like to do, I like to buy bad CDs, my own expense, Suggs, Topical, Ricky Martin, etc., and file them in his collection to embarrass him in front of a future girlfriend. Playing the long game.
You're saying that.
Nice.
You're saying that as though we don't all know there are never, ever women in your house.
So what should we test? What should we test things on then? If not
we should test things
blood
on...
oranges? I mean,
no,
what's
people who stand on... What?
Blood oranges.
Blood oranges.
It's as close as you can get to an animal while still being a vegetable, obviously.
It's not real blood.
You can eat them.
You mean I might die?
Have you been pumping your body?
I've been putting my huge teeth into blood oranges as a way of avoiding having to attack virgins, who all live near will, apparently.
OK, let's move on. Before we go on to the next round, a little announcement. If you, like me, have an iPod, and like mine, it froze after 3 days, and like me, you want to call its makers, Apple, a bunch of cat-candid amateurs and thieves, who churn out stylish metal tablets masquerading as cutting-edge electronics, and who have all the coordination skills of a jellyfish with sleeping sickness. But, like me, you can't afford the subsequent libel trial, and who, like me, are then only too happy to retract that allegation. You'll be pleased to hear that this series of Charm Offensive can be downloaded as a podcast. And you'll find out all about how to receive this as a podcast if you go to a computer. Now, David Cameron made the news this week by asking Desert Island Discs if he could sing Ernie, the Fastest Milkman in the West, and writing to Radiohead asking if they could play Fake Plastic Trees at a benefit gig. Wouldn't it have been great on so many levels if Cameron's office had got those two letters mixed up? So with Cameron now repositioning himself as a human being, it's time to ask the panel, what other advice would you give to David Cameron if you were one of his closest political confidants?
Well, apparently he's courting the female vote. That's what people keep telling me, anyway. And that's obviously why he loves Benny Hill.
Yes.
Who is technically an overpaid sex offender. And spent his entire career running around chasing women in bikinis. And we'll go, now we like you more. Oh, now we like you more. Oh, now we like... Oh, we're so fickle. I think I'll just think about shoes for a minute.
I just love the fact that he claimed that Radiohead played the song because he requested it, and when Sue Lawley asked him what you actually asked him to do it, he said, well, I wrote a letter to them saying I really liked the song and I was going to be at the gig, and then they did it. I mean, you know, we could all write a letter to Paul McCartney and say, I hope you do Hey Jude, but he's hardly likely to get it and go, oh, I suppose I could dust it off for old time's sake. How's it going?
Well, why do we want to vote for people who are cool and hip and down with the kids? Don't we want people who can run the country?
We don't. They think we do because they think we're retarded.
All right.
They've gone basically 2 X chromosomes. God, you must be an actual idiot.
Well, it's not just women, though, is it?
I've worn a special hat and I've ridden with dogs. Doesn't that make me, you know, practically Kevin Costner? No, and even if it did, ugh.
He's going to be begging to be in a Little Britain sketch. You can feel it.
Can I be the new Doctor Who?
It's
probably...
Come on and play 5 minutes for England. That's...
Do you think he's written to lots of people, just, you know, Dear Pope, can I be a saint?
I think if you write to the Pope, it has to begin, Dear the Pope.
Dear the Pope. I love you.
Yeah.
You're my favourite Benedict.
my favourite ex-member of the Hitler Youth, now in charge of a religion.
Now, actually, while we're on politics, I would just like, just ever so briefly, to go back to the John Prescott story this week. To lay to one side the croquet aspect and look at the wider constitutional picture. Because what I don't understand is none of the media have picked up on it. The bigger political story, which is that all week John Prescott has come close to being sacked while he's in charge of the country. So technically, if he had to go, he would have had to sack himself. As it was, he had a meeting with himself, declared he had his full backing, and then tried to grope himself while he wasn't looking. So to help explain the constitutional complexities of the Deputy Prime Minister crisis, we've been able to splash out a bit more money on the show and wheel in the BBC's political correspondent. Please welcome Jesse Grammaticus. OK, Jesse, thanks very much for coming on the show.
It's a pleasure, Armando.
So following the scandal of Prescott's lawn game gate, as I've just decided to call it, can you explain the Deputy Prime Minister's current political position?
Yes, well, it's an extraordinary situation he's got himself in. I think, to be honest with you, I think if Prescott gets himself through this, he's probably going to turn out to be the Reginald Bamford of New Labour.
Who's Reginald Bamford?
Reg Bamford, the current Association Croquet World Champion. But I don't think it's likely to happen.
OK, no, if we could just put the croquet, if we could just get back to Prescott.
Oh, yes.
Yes. Where exactly does he stand now, constitutionally?
Right, yeah. Well, if I could use a croquet analogy, if you will. It's very much as if he's hit a dead ball, which is stopping him from a break period. And, well, as always, the middle wicket in this case has served him a shared point for both diamonds.
Could I just once again pick you up on something? You know, for the purposes of this analogy, can you assume I don't know anything about croquet? Because I don't know anything about croquet.
Of course, Armando, I'm sorry. Well, the rules of croquet are very complicated, but if I can explain. When I say the shared point, You know, like when a hoop point becomes a rover, it can score the peg point.
Right, I see. You're now just explaining the rules of croquet to me.
Yeah.
Well, I know the basic. Well, the one interesting thing I do know about croquet is that it's not really all about obviously going to get your ball through the hoop. It's more about trying to deflect your opponent's balls away from the hoop first.
Absolutely, yes.
Yeah.
Do you play the hoop? Do you play the point? Do you play the
know,
ball?
yeah,
Yes,
yeah.
absolutely.
No, I know that, yeah.
In fact, if I could use a political analogy, perhaps, it's a sort of... It's very much as if Harriet Harman was hinting that perhaps a woman could be Deputy Prime Minister to sort of set a context for the race rather than suggesting she might run herself.
Right. Hang on. Are you now using politics to explain the rules of croquet?
Yes, I am.
Yeah. You see, that is exactly the opposite of what I was hoping this interview would do.
I don't follow.
It's now as if we were trying to play croquet by trying to get your hammer through a hoop by rolling a ball at it.
Hammer? Hammer?
Sorry, mallet. Sorry. You're right. It's a complicated game.
It is.
Jesse Grammaticus, thank you very much. You're pointless.
I am indeed.
Now, metatarsals. Don't you just hate them? The metatarsal, first invented in 1996, is an anagram of metal raster and the body's most important bone. But with the hopes of a nation now weighing heavily on Wayne Rooney's shoulders, which I'm amazed doctors aren't also looking at, it's time to get behind the national team by asking listeners to send in their spare metatarsals. In fact, in preparation for the London Olympics, we're actually asking at this point in the programme listeners to send in any spare working body parts. We've already got huge wad of spare body parts already in. Anybody found anything interesting?
2 big women stab bingo caller 88 times.
Workmates cheer as machinery crushes employee of the month.
I've donated mine.
Scientists say Witchell above recommended safety levels. Some rest for the wicked.
Meg Hucknall is solid pork.
Elderly Nazi losing memorabilia.
Pop sensation experienced by air passengers.
Coldplay nuclear reactor concert given go-ahead. Live from Gloria.
Nude wrestling boys launch Literacy Week. Or again, might not.
Or could I actually please tell listeners not to send us any more appendices or coccyxes, because they're useless and very difficult to pluralise. Now, of course, everyone has been spending so much time worrying about the fitness of our footballers. None of them have thought to check our football commentators. They should do, because some of them are not fully match fit. Alan Green, for example, still has some audible effects of a swollen tongue.
So, how can they condone cheating when English players do it? That seems
Can we
to be...
just clarify this? Sorry to put it again, Lizzie, but we must clarify this. I slaughtered Gerrard for diving. So too did Terry Butcher. Anyway, Simon in Lancashire.
Hi, Alan. How are you?
Hello, Simon. I'm fine, thank you.
Very good.
And Mike Ingham still hasn't managed to shake off the Tourette syndrome he picked up.
So let's speak to our chief football correspondent, Mike Ingham. So many questions still unanswered with 11 days to go, Mike. First of all, Michael Owen.
Well, I hope he's completely fit now, even though he does need 90 minutes. You know, in a sort of way, Mark, if England are going to go into the World Cup with this system and have Gerrard behind the main in a sort of way, Michael Owen's not really a
Meanwhile, John Watson's gone down with E. coli. Sorry, I've just got to interrupt myself now because I'm hearing that croquet is now taking up more than 50% of the news, which means we're obliged now to turn the programme into a 24-hour rolling croquet news channel. So over live to Vaughan Savage for a complete croquet roundup.
Yip Fat Lee has crashed out of the Korean Masters after top-edging a gonk in early hoops. A spectacular hoop for southeast corner northwards has put France 1 peg up in the Monsters of Croquet tournament in Brussels. Rain has stopped playing Cardiff, where defending Super Stroke champion Miles Gaffney is 2020 with a 4-pump in hand. Richmond and players trapped in a stalled croquet match for over 3 hours are eventually walked to safety by the umpire. The national croquet strike reaches its 3rd week. Management are forcing us to literally jump through hoops, say union. Dan Brown's next book is to reveal how the Vatican tried to cover up Jesus' love of croquet. And finally, millets are to begin selling mallets.
Now, Tony Blair, don't you just want to kill him? No, of course you can't. That's murder. But George Galloway this week said that killing Blair in a suicide bombing would be, quote, morally justified as revenge for the war in Iraq. Though he then went on to say that he himself wasn't calling for that. Which is a bit like someone saying, oh, those chips look nice. Really, do you want some? No. So, as a sort of a fun item to end the show, can I ask the team, who would you, in public life, like to have killed, and why? Will?
I'd like to see George Galloway eaten by giant weasels. Because he looks like one.
Clive, who would you have killed?
You've already made this point, and I just wonder, because I occasionally do legal programs on this channel, and I have to point out that killing people is against the law. You seem to be unaware of that.
I'm going for David Attenborough. He's so popular, he must do something wrong.
We are Clive, in one last gasp, desperate defence of this round, we are just having a bit of fun when all we're doing is doing a what if. What if it was legal to kill people like Michael Winner? Or that person who laughed at me when I rang up my local gym to tell him that I'd just found out that for the last 4 years I'd still been paying a monthly payment to the gym, even though I hadn't been using it. He laughed at me.
Yeah.
Now, what's wrong with killing him?
Alan Rothwell.
Alan Rothwell?
Yeah, stole my Action Man. Yeah. Had a parachute. Yeah. So I think he should be shoved out of a plane with only an Action Man parachute to break his fall. Do not cross me!
The best I can get for you on that would be provocation, which would reduce it to manslaughter, but you'd...
How many years am I looking at? I can do time in the can, I'm tough.
Can I just say that all of the above was purely light-hearted speculation. There was no intention to offend any of the people mentioned in the item, nor was there any intent actually to encourage or condone assassination. Jeff Hoon, he's another one. Anyway, well, let's just see how far the international croquet incidents are spreading with another croquet headline.
The Environment Secretary, David Miliband, is meeting representatives of water companies, consumers and regulators today to discuss the croquet in southeast England. 13 million people are already affected by croquet bans.
But on that note, goodbye.
That was Amanda Lannucci's Charm Offensive, presented by Amanda Lannucci. The guests this week were Clive Anderson, Natalie Haynes and Will Smith, and also featured Dan Mersch. It was written by Amanda Lannucci and John Holmes, Will Smith, Ian Martin, Nick Doody, Dan Tetzel and Sean Gray. And the producer was David Tyler. The programme was a Positive production for the BBC.